Hello everyone, welcome back to A Wild Approach. My name is Macy Lou, and in today's video you're going to see sort of a tour of the garden in late October. So by the time you see this, it's going to be November, but the footage is from late October, and so is my voiceover. So today I do want to talk about some themes when it comes to gardening and when it comes to my feelings about gardening in general. And if you guys have any questions as you're watching this video, leave them in the comments down below, because it's really hard to label the plants and mention the plants during a voiceover, because there's so many plants in this garden that I don't even think I can name them all in a video without it being extremely long. And so instead of going through and telling you what all these plants are, I'm probably just going to talk about why I garden in general, because it's just going to be easier than labeling all these plants. But if there is a plant that you want to know what it is, leave it in the comments down below. You can actually type up a timestamp, and that will help me figure out what plant you're talking about. Please describe the plant in the comments as well, so that it's easier for me to figure out, like in a grouping of plants, which one you're talking about. So for instance, we just zoomed in on arrowwood viburnum and then also coral honeysuckle. So just describe the plants in the frame, and that'll help me figure out what you're talking about. So also distinguish between, is it a shrub that we're looking at? Is it a vine? Is it an herbaceous perennial? Just point those features out for me so that I can better tell you what the plant is. Because again, it's just hard to name all the plants within the video. I've tried it before, and I normally can only really name so many of them. But for now, this is a 9-bark. This is common 9-bark. And this is what it looks like in the autumn. And you can see the bark kind of starts to get that peeling bark as it matures, as it ages. So anyway, but that is my little introduction on that part of things. But I have another little introduction I want to give, which is I live in East Tennessee. I am gardening in East Tennessee, and I don't really care about zones, but some people do, so I'm just going to say it's zone 7B, I think. I think we went from 7A to 7B now. So yeah, this beautiful, brilliant, fiery plant is also arrowwood viburnum. I have 2 of them in this garden bed. But anyway, I garden in East Tennessee, and I'm in the Ridge and Valley ecoregion. And so that's just a little bit of information of where I am. And I do like to say that because a lot of these plants are native. Not all of them are native, but a lot of them are. And that is where they're native to, is this general area. But we'll be back right after this. Hey guys, thank you so much for clicking on this video. Please don't forget to hit the like button if you are enjoying this content, so that I can know what videos you all like the best. Do you need a short, quick guide to get started in wildlife gardening? Well, turns out I've got just the thing. I just came out with a new free ebook just for you, and it's called A Wild Approach to Gardening 101. And it's available on my website today at macylou.com/shop. It's free, so go check it out. What do you have to lose? Alright everyone, welcome back to the episode. So today what I want to talk about is, why do I garden? Because everyone probably has their own reason for gardening. And a lot of times it can probably be a lot of different reasons. And this is not scripted, this is off the cuff, so it's going to probably be meandering a little bit, but I think that what I wanted to talk about is, you know, when you are in a space that just feels comforting, and that can be indoors or outdoors, right? A space that you walk into that you just feel, wow, I really love this space. I really feel comforted here. I really feel cozy here. I really want to linger here. That is another reason that I garden, out of the other reasons. So I've already spoken about it in other videos, but I garden for wildlife, but I also garden for privacy, aesthetics, but I also garden for wildlife. So I'm always you know, creating a space that has all of these different elements in it, and I try to make them all work together. And it can be a challenge. It depends on your particular taste, your particular goals, but for me, one thing that really sticks out as something that I don't think I talk about enough is the sense of place, the feeling of a place, how it makes you feel and why that is. And just, it can kind of inform or maybe even prove, maybe it can give evidence of what kind of environment you like, right? If you are more interested in open habitats, that might be the kind of garden you end up making. If you're more interested in woodland habitats, that might be the kind of garden that you end up making. And it also just kind of depends on your influences, who is influencing you, and what inspires you. So I personally love a little bit of everything. I don't really gravitate toward the fully open environments. I like a more enclosed space. I like it to feel more, I don't know, I kind of feel more protected if I have all these like screening plants, when I have plants that are taller than I am. It makes me feel small in a good way and not a bad way. So, you know, sometimes it's a negative connotation if you, quote, feel small. I like to feel small in my outdoor environment. So, I like trees, I like shrubs, but I also like prairie plants. And so, what I try to do on this small, like, quarter-acre lot is I try to make woodland areas and prairie areas. And whether or not that will actually even be possible in the future as these trees grow, as they produce more shade, I'm not really sure, because, you know, trees can only create so much shade before your prairie plants are no longer happy, right? But for now, I'm getting a little bit of everything, and I really love that. And what this means to me is, how can I make this space feel homey for me while also providing for wildlife and also make it pretty, but not so perfectionist pretty and like sanitized pretty, if that makes sense. I'm not really into the formal. I have formal elements in the garden, but I'm not really into the formal as much. Sometimes when I use a formal element in the garden, it's actually more for a specific reason. For example, my arborvitaes, they're just like, they're very formal, right? They're evergreen and they're very formal. They're called emerald green arborvitae, and they're not really, they're not like a host plant per se. They're not a nectar source or anything like that. So they're not really for wildlife in that sense. And so they're mostly for my own aesthetics. But that being said, birds do nest inside of them. So they do provide some shelter. But why do I use them? Okay, so it's mostly just because I want some evergreens in here. And sometimes I have trouble growing our native evergreens that are like, you know, regionally native and that fit the ecoregion, because I don't know if my soil just isn't correct for them or what. I don't know if they need more acidic soil than what I have. I'm not really sure. But another reason is because arborvitaes are skinny and they don't take up too much space. So that means I can just kind of like place them in between my other actual natives, you know, actual regionally native plants, and I can kind of shoehorn in, I don't know if that's really a good term or not, but like I can kind of like make there be some evergreen interest in between all the deciduous things. And so that's kind of where my mind is at with the arborvitaes. And I'm just saying that because that is like pretty much the only really formal plants that I have, are just things like that. So everything else is more deciduous and typically just more naturalistic in form, and, you know, a lot of the natives are deciduous and naturalistic in form. That's just kind of what our area has. So anyways, when making a sense of place, I think it can be a challenge because it's kind of like if you're starting from scratch, you just kind of look around and you're like, what do I have to work with? And that's kind of what we did. We didn't have much at all before. Almost everything you see right now used to be lawn. Like, everywhere you look in this video was pretty much lawn. There were no mature trees before. And actually all my trees are babies still. You know, even the cherry tree, she's still technically young, but she looks huge now, right? But she's not mature, of course. But we didn't have any mature trees. We didn't have anything mature except some invasive privets. Everything else was lawn or like low ground cover juniper. That was basically it, okay? And when you have a blank slate like that, there's pros and cons to it. The pros are it's all your choice. You can do whatever you want. You can plan to your heart's content, depending on how much space you have, of course. And it is kind of amazing how different a space can be when it is that blank space versus when you create a space out of it with your plants. So you can imagine what this looked like before, when it was just nothing, when it was just grass, lawn grass, not even native grass, but just lawn grass. It was just a wasteland, and it didn't really provide much of anything for anybody. It didn't provide any aesthetics for me. It didn't provide any beauty, any sound. What do you call it when you muffle the sound? It didn't muffle any of the sounds of the city. It didn't block any ugly views. It didn't give any nesting sites, you know, other than the invasive privets once they got way too huge and basically trees. Then they created nesting sites, but at that point it's like, at what cost, right? But it didn't provide anything for me, it didn't provide anything for my family, and it didn't provide anything for the wildlife. So what was the point? Why pay these huge dollar amounts per month for your mortgage, for your home and your yard, if your yard is just kind of gonna be an afterthought and not really be part of your life? Like, why go out there and mow this carpet of grass that no one is using, that no one cares about, that doesn't provide any beauty to it? Because I know some people find lawns to be beautiful, and I don't. Like, you know, so of course gardening is subjective when it comes to aesthetics, but when it comes to habitat, it's pretty objective. Like, objectively, native plants are better for wildlife, just on pretty much every front. Now, that doesn't mean every native plant provides just like amazing habitat for wildlife. Like, they're not created equal. Like, some native plants provide a lot more benefit than others. So I'm not saying that. I'm just saying when you compare native plants to non-native plants, it is a huge difference. Again, I'm not a native plant purist. I have non-native plants throughout my garden. But once I got into native plants, I wanted most of my choices to be native plants. And so this means that when I am seeking out plants to provide for aesthetics or for wildlife, or to create some kind of sense of coziness or hominess, the first place I'm going to look is native plants. It's just, to me, that just makes sense. I'm going to look there first. I'm only going to look at other things if there's not really a lot of native options for that, whatever that niche I'm trying to fill is. Then I would look elsewhere. But for the most part, you can find native plants for most things. Also on the screen right now, I think this might be an invasive plant. I don't know. I hope it's not, but it might be one of those honeysuckles, one of those invasive honeysuckles. Oh my gosh. If so, I'm going to have to dig that out. But anyway, that's a story for another day. We find invasive plants pop up every once in a while and gotta get them out. We've got a couple trees we need to get out. So there's always going to be something to work on, and that's part of the fun of gardening, is there is always something to improve, and there's always like a strategy you can try. There's something new you can work on, and part of your garden is always going to need something, right? Is it missing blooms? Is it missing ground covers? Is it missing some evergreen interest? Is it missing some, you know, shelter for birds? Like what's missing in that garden space, right? But anyway, all of that to say is I wanted a sense of place. And when I say a sense of place, I want to kind of feel like there's a lot of diversity in the garden. I want there to feel like there's a lot of different, you're using a lot of your senses. I want there to be things that smell good. I want there to be things that look good certain times of the year. You know, what times of the year do these things look good? What kind of blooms can I grow? What kind of fall color can I have? What kind of beautiful trees can I grow that are going to have really pretty bark for the winter time when there's not as much to look at? Because in the winter, that's when the trunks of your trees and your shrubs just, they're like the structure of your garden at that point, and they are like a beacon of, come look at me, you know, touch the lenticels. I mean, that should be a shirt. Touch the lenticels with me. But anyway, how can we make the space actually fulfill us in a way, but also fulfill functions for wildlife? And I think that there's so much overlap there. Because, you know, if you like to watch wildlife, if you like to observe them, obviously it's a given. You're going to want to add the plants that attract them and that bring them to the garden. You know, what trees are attracting the birds that you like to watch? What shrubs are providing host for butterflies? You know, what are the keystone species? On and on and on I could go. But it's also like how things look, like how do the trees grow? What is their form? What do the branches look like in the winter? Are they more of a candelabra shape like a sassafras? Or are they more of a fountain or a vase shape like an eastern redbud? Like, how do the branches grow? How are they shaped? And how does that affect how your garden looks? These are just some things to think about, and also think about leaf shape. Things have different leaf shapes, like this oak leaf hydrangea on the screen. Those leaves are shaped in such an interesting way. They just contrast with almost any plant that you put near it, right? And here's that thing I was talking about a second ago, the fountain shape of the eastern redbud branches, especially when the tree is a little bit younger like this one. And there's just something special to me about not just being out in nature, but being part of nature and actually putting the effort into the nature around you. And it feels so empowering. I don't know why, but to me, it just feels so empowering that I can go outside right now and I could plant a shrub or a tree or something. And, you know, over the years, as it grows, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And all I had to do was plant it, water it a little bit, and then it just grew. It just grew. You know, as long as you're picking the right place for it, it's just going to grow. And you just put a little bit of love into it by giving it a little bit of water. You know, if it's native and it likes the soil you've put it in and it likes the sun you've got it in, then it'll just grow. And it kind of feels like magic in a way. And I think that's partially why I'm so into it. Is, you know, if you want to build a house, you have to build a house out of these materials, right? And you have to use all these tools, and you have to use like screws or nails or whatever, and you have to put these materials together, and you're building the entire house from scratch, right? You have to have all these different pieces and elements, and you have to touch like all of that, and it's all on you to build the house because it is a man-made building, right? And obviously you're getting the materials from nature, but you're still having to put all the effort in to create the height of the house as tall as you want it to be, and as many stories as you want it to be. But there's just something magical about the fact that you can plant a seed or plant a sapling tree, and then it'll just grow and grow and grow and grow and grow taller than you, and you didn't have to build it. You just had to get it started. You just had to give it a little push. You just had to give it a little bit of help at the beginning, and then it just grows on its own, and it just gets bigger and bigger and creates like a ceiling over your garden. And I don't know why, but to me that feels magical. That just feels like magic to me. That that doesn't feel like, I don't know, it just feels special. It doesn't feel like anything else. Gardening doesn't feel like anything else. Think about it. And then I like to make art, right? Let's compare it to making art. Just like building a house, when you make art, you start with materials, you start with a canvas. It's just a blank slate. And you put the paint on, or, whatever your art form is. You use pencils, you use paint, whatever. And you have to build all those materials, and you have to create that artwork basically from scratch with just a few materials, and you've built the whole thing. It hasn't done anything on its own. But with gardening, there's this huge chunk of it that it's doing it on its own. It just needed you to come along and plant that seed, or to plant that sapling, and to water it for like a couple months, right? And then it's just like, boom, it's growing. Like, this feels like magic. This feels special. This feels like, wow, I have some control over my life in this tiny area. So I think that's another thing I like about it is, ironically, a lot of people use their lawns as a way to feel like they have control. And I feel like what's funny about it is, to me, I feel like the lawn controls the person, because the lawn is just, it's usually not native grass. It's needing to be mowed on and on and on. The maintenance is wild with it, and it doesn't really provide much of anything when it comes to anything for the wildlife or anything for you. You can't sit under a blade of grass and get shade. You can't eat the fruit off of a blade of grass. Like, it's like not it's not providing much of anything for you. Our native grasses provide quite a bit, but lawn grasses, it's not where it's at. And so to me, like, I feel like people who think they're controlling their lawn because they're mowing their lawn, I see it more as like they're being controlled by the lawn, by the lawn culture. And yet when we are making our native plant gardens, the first thought might be like, oh, it's out of control. Oh, it's, it's like crazy, it's messy, it's all these things. But it's like, actually, if you think about it, it's more like a collaboration. Like, when you create a garden, it's a collaboration, because you're not controlling it completely, and it's not controlling you completely either, because you're putting in work, you're putting in effort, you're planting seeds, you're planting saplings, you're creating pathways to different parts of your garden, you are watering things that need water in the early days when they first need it the most, and you're collecting seeds, or you're letting the birds eat the seeds. And guess what? The other part is, the birds are spreading the seeds around. The birds are helping plant things. The squirrels are planting seeds from trees around. And then the trees, what are they doing? They're putting down their roots. They're growing strong and healthy. They're getting taller and taller and taller. They're starting to provide shade. They're starting to provide food for you and for butterflies and for birds. And I mean, I'm looking out the window right now as I'm recording this audio, and it's just like, I'm seeing birds all over the place, flying through my trees that I've planted, flying through the garden, getting seeds, eating, maybe little insects that are still running around at this time of year. And just, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's everyone collaborating together versus a person with their mower, versus like a person with their leaf blower. Instead it's a person, planting things, and a bird eating seeds, and a squirrel foraging and hoarding their little, their cash stores, just like the blue jay, and just all of these things together. And once you add a pond to the mix, it's like somehow even more magical, because then you have all the pond life that comes to be. And it's just, I don't know, I could go on and on, but I think you get it. It feels like a slice of life that feels magical, and it feels like you have a little bit of control. You're not controlling the whole thing. You're more like a collaborative artist on a big art project, and all the wildlife is also participating in this art project, and so are the trees and the plants. They're also participating in this art project. That is kind of what I'm trying to get at, and I think that is why it feels so fulfilling to me, and it feels so much more cozy and homey. And I mean, seriously, right now I'm looking out the window while I'm talking, and there are 3 cardinals, 2 females and 1 male, on my elderberry, and there's some like ironweed that's growing through it, and there's seeds on the ironweed, and they're eating the seeds. And it's just like, I've got passion fruits hanging that are like going to seed, so they could probably eat I've seen them eat seeds out of the passion fruits many times, and it's just so beautiful. It's like, when I had a lawn, I would see starlings. I would see like invasive birds, and maybe the occasional cardinal once in a while, maybe the occasional crow once in a while. And now I see like so many different species of birds. And I also see hawks. And I finally this year, for the first time, saw an owl. And I'm just like loving it, okay? I'm loving it. And, it can take some getting used to. It can take some effort to switch your brain from that lawn-centric, brainwashing? I know it's probably a little bit offensive to call it brainwashing, but that's what it feels like. It feels like we've been brainwashed into the lawn thing, because I'm telling you, when I look out my window now, my mood is so much better than when I looked out my windows back when I had a lawn. It's just night and day difference. And, as human beings, we need that. We need to be surrounded by nature, and we need to be happy. And that does not mean you have to be in the countryside to be surrounded by nature. I'm in the city. I think that everybody needs a little dose of nature, even in the city. In fact, I think it's even more important in the city because there's more people, and we need the shade from the trees. We need to cool down the roads and the sidewalks, because nobody wants to be burning hot in the summer. And anyway, but yeah, that's my opinion on that. What do you guys think? Let's have a discussion in the comment section. How do you create a sense of place in your garden? Is it as simple as a prairie for you, or do you like more of the woodland style, or are you somewhere in between? I'm kind of all over the place, but I definitely lean more toward the woodland and shrubby style. But I just like it all. I love it all, and so I'm trying to have all of it. And I know that one day, as everything matures, it might be more of just a woodland, but I'm trying to keep it to where some areas are sunny and some areas are shaded, but we will see how it goes. That's what I think. I think that we need more of a sense of place. I think it feels very, dystopian, just how lawn-centric our culture has gotten over, I don't know how long it's been, a long time. The lawn centricity is hopefully dying down a little bit. I would like it to die down a lot more. I think, it's something I think about a lot when I think about my house and like one day selling my house. I'm just like, oh my gosh. When I sell my house one day, am I even going to be able to find a place? Like, am I going to be able to find another house to buy that is actually going to have a sense of place in the yard, in the garden? Because unfortunately, folks, it is not necessarily easy to find a yard or a garden that has so many native plants and so much diversity and so much wildlife that use it. Yeah, we might have a lot of mature trees in our region, but oftentimes you will see there might be mature trees on a yard, but is there an understory? Is there a shrubby layer? There's almost never a shrubby layer other than non-native and even invasive shrubs, and it's just sad. It's so sad. And the most you might get are native trees like maples or oaks, which oaks are a keystone, so that's great. But then underneath those trees there's like nothing. There's like a lawn, and it's like, what are we doing here, people? So I think about that a lot. I'm kind of hesitant to want to ever move just because now I feel like, I've literally put down roots here, literally, with the trees and the shrubs, and it's hard to let that go once you have it, because it feels so different when you don't have it, You can remember back to when you just had a lawn and you're like, oh my gosh, do I want to have to start over again? And starting over just sounds so tough, So if I ever move, I'm gonna want the place to at least have some native trees, like at the very least, or native shrubs, something. Give me something that is, and that is a brown thrasher outside my window right now, a big one. He's a chunky one. Anyway, but I think about it all the time. I think we need a native plant. Again, not a native plant purist. I'm totally okay with having multiple non-native plants. I prefer the native plants. They provide a lot more for the wildlife. I want at least 70% of my garden to be native. I think more than that is native actually already. So I think I'm already over that number, but it also depends on how you define native. Are you talking about native to literally East Tennessee? Are you talking about native to the Eastern United States? Because that can really change how much the percentage is also, right? But anywho, right now on the screen I'm showing you a leaf of the crossvine plant. This one is actually, the fall color is very yellow, which is interesting. I thought they turned more of a purple in the fall, but this one's very yellow and very pretty and interesting. I need to actually put a trellis here because this crossvine is going to need a trellis, because I thought it could just grow on the wall, but it is having trouble sticking to the wall because of the paint. I guess the paint's too glossy, I don't know. But anyway, I want that crossvine eventually to just cover that half of the wall, because I hate that white wall. I've hated it for years. I want it to be green. I want it to be lush. I want it to be full of vines. This, I think, is a spurge. Some kind of, I think it's a native ground cover spurge. Don't quote me on that. But it is doing a pretty good job at covering these shingles. I put down some shingles to kill the Bermuda grass. And as you can see, the spurge is growing on top of it, which is pretty cool. But anyway, I think that, it's totally up to you what you feel you want to do to your garden. But this is just one thing that you can do. You can devote it to a combination of coziness and habitat and a collaboration with Mother Nature, and something that you can feel comfort in. And you can hear the birds, and you can hear the wind through the trees. It's just, I don't know, there's something special about, oh, this is, I think, American germander, by the way. This is my first year having this. My friend gave it to me, so I'm excited to see how that goes. But down here under this bench, it's really hard to show you because the Creeping Charlie is infiltrating it. But I have partridge berry and I have green and gold. And it's very hard to show you. But I wanted to make sure it was still there, and it is still there. There is partridge berry and green and gold right there. But hopefully you can even, I don't know if you can even see it, but it's down in there. I think partridge berry is such a delightful little ground cover, tiny little leaves, and then green and gold is so pretty in the spring with yellow flowers. Gorgeous. I needed a ground cover situation that could be under this bench that could handle the shade, because this area gets, this side of the courtyard garden gets a lot of shade and the other side gets a lot of sun. So it's kind of cool because there's the path in the middle and then one side gets a lot of shade and one side gets a lot of sun. So I get to do like the opposite things right across from each other, which is pretty cool. This is my, so I have two sassafras trees. This is the more mature one. They're both babies, but this one has a lot more of maturity because I just planted the other one this year. But I think I've had this one in the ground for a couple of years now. I forget exactly when I planted it. I don't know if I planted it in 2023 or 2024, but it was one of those. I think it was 2023, but don't quote me on that. And it's been doing great. I do supplementally water it every once in a while because it's so easy for me to water it. It's just a few feet away from the spigot, so it's really easy for me to water it and keep it happy. And it's right outside my kitchen window, and so I really want it to get bigger and basically just be this beautiful beacon of sassafras right outside my kitchen window. Look how open the sky is here. This area gets so hot in the summer, so I'm hoping that one day, I don't know if I'll still be here. I might move away by then. We'll see. But hopefully I'll still be here by then, and that tree will get big and shade this patio. Okay, so we had an incident with the pot, so now we're learning how long the lifespan is of these pots. I was trying to get a plant out of it and it just ripped it. It cracked it and ripped it. So that's unfortunate. But anyway, in here I have some purple coneflower and some stiff goldenrod that I can plant somewhere in the garden. Just so you know, the downside to these big pots, which is probably going to be obvious to a lot of you seasoned gardeners out there, is the roots of these native plants, they will go all the way down into these huge pots, and that is a pain in the butt. But see, I did it because I didn't want to have to water them as often, because if they have more soil and they're in bigger pots, I don't have to water them as much. But the downside is the roots were insane. I was trying to get, like, I think it was a Joe Pye weed out of there, and oh my gosh, it cracked the pot. It was a whole problem. Lesson learned, I guess. Does that mean I'm going to change? I don't know. I don't even know if I'm going to grow that many seedlings coming up this next year. I know that's crazy. It's probably the first time I don't really grow that many. I haven't decided. Because it is a lot of work, and I'm running out of space anyway to put anything. So, should I really spend the time growing a bunch of seedlings where I'm only gonna have room for like a small handful of them? I don't know. But anyway, so leave me a comment down below. What do you think? What are your plans for this fall, winter, and spring when it comes to growing new plants from seed, buying plants? What do you guys have going on? I want to know all about it. And don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button so that I know that this is the type of content that you want to see more of. I haven't actually done a garden tour in so long, so I hope you enjoyed this. And over here I've got some Blue Star. You know, Blue Star has a gorgeous yellow fall color. Oh my gosh, it's like a gold. You saw it. And then here I've got Obedient Plant. Sorry for the not so good camera work. It was starting to rain on me, as you can probably tell. But look at the Obedient Plant. It's so pretty. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hi guys, cutting in here real quick to let you know that I have a new feature on my channel, and it is the join button. If you click the join button, there are going to be 2 options for you to choose from. You can choose to be a part of the Cozy Cottage group for $2.99 a month, which would give you the loyalty badges, emoji, and early access to all of my new videos. Or you can choose Secret Sanctuary for $9.99 a month, and this includes everything else I already mentioned in the $2.99 plus members-only live streams. So if we get some members in the Secret Sanctuary, I will have special members-only live streams. So thank you guys for considering it. Whether or not you can, I appreciate you very, very much. In celebration of spooky season, I've designed a brand new shirt called Night Watch, which features the owl that showed up to our garden just a few weeks ago for the very first time. I think this is a great shirt for the Halloween and autumn season, and I hope you guys do too. Check it out at my link in the description. Hey guys, don't forget to follow me on Blue Sky and Instagram. These are the 2 best social media accounts other than YouTube, where you can find me and you can see me post photos of the garden, thoughts on wildlife, and more. So don't forget to follow me over there. To support the channel, like the video, comment, and subscribe. You can also support my work by buying art from me at macylou.com. Thanks for watching!